summer, when I'm beaching it or boating it, I pick up sea glass. Sea glass is the remnants of trash, bottles that got into the ocean somehow, and over time, often hundreds of years, they get beat up by the sand and salt water and become perfect little polished gems. This bin is not perfect at all. These are really rough. They have not been polished properly, but and you can see the shiny part there that has not been polished at all. These are just barely polished. Some are a little bit better, but in general, this is not a bin that is good quality. It's saved because of the color. These are just beautiful, beautiful colors that you don't usually find in sea glass. And so even though they're not high quality at all, I save them. The pieces that are really beautiful are much, much smaller. Every single side and edge has been polished and frosted. Now, what I would do with these, after years and years of collecting them, is I then started making little bails for them. Take a little bit of silver wire, make a bail for it, put a charm on it, put it on a chain. I also did it with pebbles, because they have these beautiful smoothed pebbles that you can find at the beach. A little bit of crystal, and it's a nice piece of summer jewelry. Another thing I did with it is I would make a tree of life. I would find a pretty piece of green and take copper wire and form a tree. So as this sort of hobby, playing with reclaimed things and found things, has evolved, I'm now at a point where I'm fusing pieces of glass together in a kiln. And I'm going to share how that works, because it's the weirdest little microwave kiln, and I didn't think it would work, and it works really well. So this is the base. The back is just a piece of green sea glass that wasn't finished, and I put a Millefiori bead that I bought at a craft store. These are little glass beads that are made usually in Italy, and you just take the piece of glass, the little Millefiori, you take a big piece of unfinished sea glass, put it on there, put it in the kiln, microwave away for anywhere between probably 6 and 12 minutes, and you end up with a piece of glass with the extra parts in it. And these are some of the ones I've done. I got my glass kiln about a week ago, and obviously I've been having some fun with it. This one is a complete disaster. It was supposed to be a bouquet of flowers, but I picked a base that was too small. So when I put it in the kiln, one of the little leaves fell off and stuck to the side. One of the little Millefiori, which was supposed to be another flower right there, fell off and burned to the bottom of the kiln. So obviously it's just trial and error. But today for iBlock, that's what I'm going to show you, how to fuse glass in your microwave. The first step in the process is finding a base. When you're using old sea glass, it's a little tricky because it's all curved, which makes stacking the pieces a little bit challenging because they want to just slide off. I had a beautiful piece in the bucket, but it was so curved that it really wouldn't work at all. And I would like to do a bouquet, like flowers with leaves. I'm thinking that the way the pendant will hang will be like this. So then I would dig through my little bits of green glass, and I'm going to find things that look like leaves, or I think look like leaves. And so the composition part, you have to do ahead of time. You can't just pop this into the kiln without planning ahead of time. So I would just play and, you know, try out different combinations. And then I would go into my Millefiori, and I'm going to look for a particular color palette. And I'm thinking right now, maybe I will do red. It seems by when you look at everything I've done, I'm kind of in a red mood. So I'm going to pick my pieces and I'm going to arrange them on this piece of glass to look like a little field of flowers. Tiny, like green on the bottom, little flowers. And I will get back to you when I have my composition settled, and I will show you how I load it into the kiln and how I fuse it. Composing the piece can be really challenging because I'm trying to go with the red, white, and blue theme, but then I'm looking for bits of glass that look like leaves. And so then I went in and I got the other containers of green glass. And you can see trying to find the perfect little piece. It is sometimes time consuming. But that's where I am so far. So I've changed my mind a few times and I think this is what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to move that aside and take out the base of the microwave kiln. Sorry for the movement. I need to get a fresh piece of kiln paper because that other one that I had was used already. Now I'm going to have to trim it. You can't have the paper going over the edge because it will interfere with the kiln closing properly. So let me get a pair of scissors and I will trim that and be right back with you. So there's my kiln paper on my little base. It's well within the frame so that it won't interfere with it closing. I need to carefully take my piece, and this is where I ruin a bunch of them because I drop it. I drop them. And your piece has to be completely on that paper. You can't have any of it hanging over the edge. So I've trimmed my paper a little bit small, but I think I'll be able to get away with it. Now I need to take the top of the kiln and just close it over top of the glass. So there's the kiln. So now the kiln is ready to be put into the microwave. Now this cannot be done in a microwave that you're planning to use for food. So when we replaced our microwave, we put the new one in the kitchen and I put the old one out in the screened porch. I wasn't 100% sure that the kiln wouldn't like blow up. So I figured if it was out on the porch and it did blow up, it couldn't do as much damage as if it was in my kitchen. So next I'm going to move you out onto the screened porch where we will set it to fire. You can't see it that well because I'm filming with my phone, but my yard looks a little like a Hitchcock movie. I filled the feeder and the birds have descended. It looks like grackles, brown-headed cowbirds, and starlings, but the trees are filled with these big black birds. As soon as I open the door, they go away from the feeder and up into the trees, but you can see them all up there. They do not like that I'm out here, but I need to film the kiln. The kiln needs to go right in the middle on the rotating tray, and then I'm going to close the door and set the timer. I'm going to set it for 6 minutes and start it up. When it ends, you need to carefully look at how it's progressed. And if you look inside, you can actually see how hot it gets inside there. And you're going to put some heat-proof gloves on, which unfortunately I did not do before I started filming. So I'm going to put them, no, hold on. I'm definitely going to have some gloves on because this is hot, 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 hot. And I'm going to tip it up a little bit to see how it's progressing. And I'm thinking I might leave it at that stage because it looks like it's pretty well fused. So the next thing I have to do is leave it in this kiln without really opening it up again, other than a quick peek,
for 40 minutes, because if you don't let it cool slowly, the glass will crack. So we'll be back in 40 minutes.
While I'm waiting for the 40 minutes for the glass to cool, I usually start composing a new piece. I had a nice rectangle. It's a little bit big, was a little bit big, so I cut off the ends. And so I want to show you some of the other tools. This is a glass cutter. What you do is you scratch the glass with that wheel just to score it, and then you can snap it off right where you scored it. Works pretty well. If you want to get little bits off, you use nipping pliers and just break those little bits off. Absolutely remember safety glasses when you are doing a task like this. We do not want to risk our eyes. It's actually been a little more than 40 minutes. Ooh, that looks cool. So I'm going to bring this inside and open it up and show you what we ended up with. When you open it up, you need to put the lid upside down so that any extra heat escapes. And there we have it. That's our fused piece. That's pretty cool. I probably should have left it a little bit